Oh, hello everybody. Welcome to GI Joburg episode 369. We are talking about 1985, and by we, I mean myself, Steve, Paul.
Whoa, ski, whoa, ski. What's up, everybody? It's Paul here. He said 369, so.
And Rob.
Demonetized. Hello.
Anyway.
Window to the wall. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Drop off my ball.
You just be man.
Anyway. Rob knows his hip hop.
Hello.
I'm back. Hello. It's good to be here. I got in last night. No, it was yesterday morning. So it's been a night. I've woken up and straight into podcasting.
He just can't stay away.
Oh,
He can't
Rob
stay
and I
away,
are
guys.
If
We
I
forced
get it
Steve
wrong
on.
more than right on this show, please forgive me. Jet lag. No, mind you, I'm only dealing with 2 hours right now.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Singapore and Brisbane are just 2 hours apart.
But can't you accumulate jet lag? So
can't you
isn't that like a thing?
like store it up and release it
look,
all at once?
My experience is that jet lag stays with you for 2 weeks, but I also have kind of like become quite resilient with it. You just sleep as much as you can for as long as you can, and that kind of cancels things out.
Okay.
I don't know. We're not talking about travel on this show. It's a travel podcast.
We only care about GI Joe.
Yes. So, Rob, this was an idea that you pinged.
Yeah, it was.
Talking about anniversaries, like you wanted to do, I think, the anniversary of like 1994 or something.
95?
Whatever. And I was like, but hang on.
25th anniversary. Yeah.
It's the 40th anniversary of the greatest series of the GI Joe toy line.
My goodness.
Or is it?
So we've got to devote an episode to 1985, right?
Well,
yeah.
obviously.
Obviously.
Yeah.
It's not the worst year. It's not the year that the Battle Axe and the Pile Driver came out, along with the two versions of probably the worst version of Outback ever. Outback with a bloody hard hat on? How does that even make sense?
Young man.
How?
All right, that's where you were going with this. Look, I know that you want to play the devil's advocate on this episode. It's normally my position, and I'm grateful for that because you're Mr.
sure.
1986.
Exactly.
But you do have an affinity for Quick Kick these days. So
I do actually. So
let's drill down onto that.
We have to dig hard to find bad stuff about it.
We are once again indebted to 3D Joes. GI Joburg personally, but I'm gonna spin out from that and say GI Joe fandom in general is so lucky to have a resource like 3D Joes. I don't think Transformers or Motu or anybody else has a website quite as spectacular as 3D Joes. They've all got excellent resources. Some of them have been around for decades, but 3D Joes, it's just pretty, man. So if you don't know about it and you're into GI Joe, visit them, support them in everything they do.
Check it out.
Because we are spoilt.
We definitely are. And just a huge shout out and thank you to them, I guess is what Steve is also trying to say.
Link in the description below.
Yeah. So our stuff is like, again, it's streaming off 3D Joe's. So just putting that out there as a disclaimer.
I think in overview, I was thinking about this the other day. 1985 was probably the last series that was heavily complementary to what came before. So by that I mean, like, sure, in 1987 you got an MCC and it was kind of supporting use with the Ore Striker by having the removable engine block. So there was a little bit of callback there. But in terms of like a line that was an add-on to what you previously had and wasn't sort of a hard reset, 1986 formed a hard reset. You had new vehicles, new representatives of each vehicle class being kind of put out again. So you could start as a baseline with 1986. But 1985, you need only look at like the transportable tactical battle platform and the flag to know that this year is symbiotic or has synergy with things that came before. You can park your armadillo on the battle platform. Here you could park your Sky Striker and pretty much all of your figures on the flag. So, and also Cobra's vehicle pool is very small in 1985 because it incorporates everything that came before. They weren't going to put out another helicopter because they had the Fang. They weren't going to put out another aircraft because they had the Rattler. So what do they give you? A cigarette boat and a flight pod. Exciting stuff. We will get into it, but we're going to start with the figures.
Wait a minute. The figures. What?
And I think it's also, I think to add to what Steven's saying as well, is that it's worth mentioning that 85 is probably the most iconic wave of GI Joe or year of GI Joe figures. I'll let you guys argue that in the comments.
Helped in no small part by the fact that it was the season 1 Sunbow team. So like GI Joe was really in its straps by this point. We'd gotten past the OG Greens. We had just a rock star year of like characters. Like the comic book or the cartoon writers could really lean into each character's shtick because they were so unique. Anyways, let's start off with a very unique figure. A chemical, biological, radiological specialist by the name of Airtight.
Fart Man.
A favorite of Gary V's from Chaplin's Assistant's Motopod. Whew. I struggle to get that out, and I know he does too. Why'd you have to come up with such a difficult name, Gary? Chaplin's Assistant's Motopod. There you go.
There you go. That's what it's called, guys. What a great idea for a figure. A guy that doesn't have any weapons. And I mean, it sounds sarcastic saying that, but it kind of adds to the general troops of G.I. Joe. You know, not just directly fighting Cobra, you know, with their guns. They also indirectly, you know, they're kind of cleaning up behind Cobra as well, in a way. You know, the problems that they leave behind themselves.
His design is so bold.
Yeah. And probably one of the brighter figures you get up to this point.
His card art is so very like he's got a German MG as his weapon.
Yeah.
But just modified at the front. And that is always misleading to me. I'm like, that looks like a gun, man. That's a heavy firearm. But it's got that weird thing on the front. I think that's what put me off purchasing him as a child.
The sniffer.
The sniffer. How do you play with this guy? Because unless he's handling radiological disasters or going into gassed out areas or defusing some kind of like nerve gas weapon, what does he do? Some people put him in the backseat of the Sky Striker. Very smart because he has a unremovable helmet.
There is that. I think I've always liked the idea of him working inversely, so not just like taking out hazardous materials, but also introducing them. And not necessarily hazardous materials, but putting gases into like a room. Like he could gas up a room and knock out everybody.
Violating the Geneva Convention.
Yeah, but like a knockout gas. Like knockout gas.
Knockout gas. Well, look, he had... Continue, Rob.
No, you say, you know, like they're creating problems, breaking Geneva Conventions, but he's not the only character in this year that kind of skirts that line. Like, really?
We're gonna get into it. But yeah, Airtight is so unique and only made more unique by his characterization in the cartoon as just a kind of a slightly older guy, very bookish, very dismissive, but like deadly proficient.
Do you know when this guy became like a favorite of mine? Because he is a favorite of mine. Was when you used him in a play motion.
Isn't that true for a lot of people? Hey, you put a dude in a play motion and they suddenly love the character.
Yeah, there's just something about him that is just he's just been elevated for me by the play motions. And it got me to really look at the figure. And I also credit to Gary V because I know that this is one of Gary V's favorites, as we've mentioned, and him mentioning it has actually got me liking it as well. I've even gone as far as to do an artwork of this character. So yeah.
Well, hey. Okay, let's move on because we could spend a lot of time, but we don't have a lot of time. We've got a big year to go through. Next up, alphabetically, would be my man Alpine. Another
Alpine.
terrific
Oh,
characterization from a
yeah.
Sunbow cartoon.
Hmm.
Yeah, man. The
And
gear.
so
The gear
well,
on this
yeah,
one.
the gear,
Jeez.
so good. So much appropriate stuff. You know, he really is ready to climb anything.
Accurately
And he looks
scaled
cool.
submachine gun.
Very rare
Oh.
at this point in the line.
It's a very cool gun. It's probably one of the coolest guns in the line because of its scaling and just
Beretta 9mm, I believe.
I think that is correct. Yeah.
I'm gonna agree.
Yeah.
I
Bit of an
also have
vintage
to
gun
give.
at this point, I think. Like it's from I'm gonna say the 60s, Italian gun. So a
Hmm.
unique choice, but I love the fact that his grapple launcher is the XMLR with a bit of extra molding. It's got a drum for the sort of the spool, and then obviously the barrel now ends in a hook. But everything else, it's the XMLR. Is that to
I just
say that maybe he can like fire lasers through that thing as well?
perhaps, or perhaps just maybe it's just to show how versatile the gun is. Like you mod it like that, and it becomes, soft enough to be able to launch a grapnel without, blowing it up or breaching the barrel.
Well, that's the
So,
second modified weapon we have in this year.
Yes.
Airtight, takes off that little Hoover and he can shoot people. That's kind of cool.
Now, it strikes me that there should be some additional engineering to Alpine that we weren't getting the benefit of, because what is up with his backpack?
yes, it kind of like protrudes out far, and it's got that slip on I think it's the left-hand side, like it's meant to have something that goes in there. At least that's always been my feel.
It's the top
Like,
edge that has, well, yes, it's got sort of cavities on the left and right. But
yes.
the top edge has this kind of shelf, this clip.
Yeah. They probably
some
wanted
have
to do more with it for sure.
Some people have wrapped the rope around there and slipped the grapple launcher behind there so he can store his gear in official/unofficial ways. But I don't know. It speaks to the potential of like something else happening there. Something else should have fitted in there to maybe give him a play feature. Maybe it was dropped at a certain point. But all in all, yeah, terrific coloring. And once again, got to come back to the fact that he was an absolute rock star from Pyramids of Darkness onwards. Like Alpine was just the wisecracking, like cool guy.
Yeah,
There was that
one of the
episode
cool
where like
characters.
Cobra was ransoming the world for like, I don't know, an obscene amount, like $30 billion. And Alpine was like, it's okay, guys. I got my GI Joe credit card.
I also love the sculpt and detail on this guy. I never cared much for Alpine until you got yours, Steve. You were in Joburg. You brought him over, and then this figure just came alive to me. I just saw how well made it was. The jacket, the pants. It's the way the gloves are sculpted. This is an outstanding toy. So another like hit for 85, if I may be so
Absolutely.
bold as to say.
Card art would seem to suggest that the gun goes behind the backpack.
Yeah.
Could be. Anyways, barbecue, boys. Or should I say,
Barbecue.
you guys had to beat me to it.
Yep,
Was
here's the
unique.
yeah. No, go for it.
I am spent. A firefight in GI Joe.
Yeah.
Oh well. Yep,
Well,
they
I
threw
mean,
everything at the wall this year, didn't they?
yeah. Well, I mean, we have an environmental dude, we have a climber, we have a firefighter. They are kind of, I think they're just trying to reach beyond just soldiers. I mean, yes, we do get soldiers in this line as well in this year, but they are kind of like just expanding on what a a fighting force would need. What are these smaller roles that you would fill the slots with? And he is a necessary guy. If fire breaks out in war, someone's got to put it out.
Exactly. And when you've got like the tactical battle platform and the flag, it's great to have your firefighter on hand, to have him with the team to be able to, extinguish fires quickly. It reduces panic, it saves lives, it's all that good stuff. And he looks like baller.
He looks so cool.
Someone has to pump the gas as well, since you have that fuel truck. I mean, that's pretty much barbecue's standard like place to reside in my collection. He fuels up the Sky Strikers. But I wanted to hear from the people who actually put rifles in this guy's hands, because he has a secondary specialty of infantry. The cartoons certainly used him extensively, beyond just fighting fires. Like, he was in the field. So just like there's a fan of every single figure in GI Joe. I stand by that. Like, someone's childhood favorite was attached to even that Outback that you spoke of, Rob, with the hard hat.
Yeah, sure.
For some kid out there, it was their favorite.
I feel sorry for that kid, but
Also, like
in the same way, barbecue will have its pundits.
I also feel like barbecue could exist very comfortably in Mask as well, just because of his whole appearance and the whole way his helmet and everything works. Just looks like a great shoe-in for a
removable helmets. Yeah, I get it. But like the fun with Joe's that had removable helmets was, yes, you could play that mask thing of like he's got a character full head, but then you slip the mask on and all of a sudden Lightfoot becomes Brad Turner. That's what I did. Wonderful accessories and used with aplomb in his first like outing in the comic book. Like that first arc that he was featured in, he was like chopping off burning bits of the transportable tactical battle platform, and then the very next issue he was like murdering his tank drivers with it. Wonderful fella.
Also, some light needs to be put on the two-tone backpack. That's not often seen in the line. Very cool. Very cool little feature there.
A two-piece affair. I've never actually taken the red section out of the bracket.
Ooh, you should.
I can't imagine it's an easy thing to do.
Yeah,
it doesn't slide.
No.
Yeah, don't be experimenting with 40-year-old plastic, everybody. Bazooka.
That's correct.
Oh my goodness. Controversial, maybe.
Yeah, he's obviously a lot of people's favorites. Featured in the cartoon, he was featured in Devil's Due, wasn't he? As one of the main characters for a little bit.
Yeah,
because he was retired and then got pulled back in.
Yeah, got pulled back in.
He got into shape real quick.
Yeah, he's casual, but also like he's ready for war at the same time. I love that he has kind of like a football shirt on. It does kind of make him stand up against the other characters.
Mr. Katzenbogen or Katzenbogen.
Terrific helmet. One of the best.
Yeah.
Oh, terrific stash. One of the best.
Great pants as well. Got to say,
some of the best.
You love the way the pants are sculpted. Bazooka is one of those toys for me that makes sense when you have him in hand. On the periphery, you kind of just like, oh, whatever about this dude. But this toy really does come alive when you have him in hand. And once again, also slowly wormed its way into my heart as well. Like, I got a soft spot for the Bazooka figure and for Bazooka as a character now. So, again, another iconic character.
Would you play him as a dunce? Lunkhead? No. Okay, good.
I don't like playing him as a dunce. As you guys know, you've heard how I play out Fisherman Bazooka. So I like the idea of him maybe every now and then playing dumb, but being very smart.
Wasn't he also featured in that cool classified video?
Mike the Hunter. I'm glad you raised it. Yes, I think that characterization is perfect. If you don't know what I'm talking about, check out Mike the Hunter's channel, and it's called Bazooka the Movie. It's excellent. I think it's like 90 minutes, maybe more, that
Yeah, it's a
really
proper
leans in to Bazooka. Yeah. Wow. What a year. Let's do our first enemy character. And
Oh,
that's
who could it be?
Buzzer.
Oh,
Huzzah!
Dreadnoks.
Okay, Rob, you can lead the charge on this one since you're not a fan.
She loves Dreadnoks.
Well, I mean, it's certainly it's cool that they introduced a third faction, and I suppose what are you going to do with that third faction? You have two, you have terrorists, you have army men. Like who is that third group going to be? It's going to be a bunch of delinquents, guys who are against. I suppose they represent anarchy or, I suppose fighting against the man, whether it's but in a different way to the way the Cobra, anti-establishment. They fight against the government and stuff, but for different reasons. The Cobra do. So I mean, it is an interesting addition to the overall thing of what GI Joe is. Yeah, it's an okay figure to me. He's got jeans on, and cool weapons. I mean, he definitely stands out as being very different from the normal soldier that you'd get. And it's nice that I think all the Dreadnoks kind of come with their own unique weapons, which makes them stand out. And yeah, Paul, why Dreadnoks?
Oh man, I just love the anti-establishment vibe of them. But then also they fit comfortably as bad guys, but then they also can be an inconvenience for the enemy, which is also nice. So they can be an inconvenience for Cobra, I suppose, is one of the things I like about them too. I also feel like I've always had a bit of a soft spot for them because of the movie. But I think the thing that sealed my love for the Dreadnoks was Cold Slither, by far. And this figure, I won't lie, I'm not the biggest fan of his head sculpt. I've always found it to be a little bit crazy, and but from the neck down, I love the sort of bad cop or sort of inverted Duke kind of look that he has going for him. The fun
He's got
little
a
Easter
sheriff's
egg.
badge, and he's got like are they jump wings? Yeah, it's got
Jump
the
wings,
parachute
yeah.
and the wings. Like he's just picking this stuff off dead cops and dead soldiers, right?
Yeah, it's
Pretty
just kind of
much.
like random things. He's also one of the first guys who's a non-combatant or a non-soldier character. So I mean, it's interesting to see the kind of outfit that they came up with for a guy who isn't specifically a soldier or a Cobra, troop.
Yeah.
Of the unholy the unholy trinity, the unholy trinity of Buzzer, Ripper, and Torch. Like everyone's got their favorites. For me, it's always been Buzzer. Maybe it's got something to do with the fact that he was the smart one, having this interesting backstory as actually being, university don. I mean, what was he? Was he actually a lecturer? It's unclear, but he kind of fell off the wagon big time, and took up this life of anarchy. But like, also just his head sculpt, the way he was characterized in the comic book, something spoke to me about Buzzer specifically. He wasn't just run of the mill Dreadnought, and the character design. Like, I like the head sculpt. I like the hairpiece. I like the fact that it's pulled back really tight. And quite a high widow's peak. He's got a lot of character, and it is all present in the figure. Like they didn't have to embellish too much on the page and on the screen.
You could almost say,
Also-
I mean, he's
No, you could always say he is. Okay. Something that's always fascinated me about him, though, is that he comes with a gas can for his backpack, and it is actually removable, which is pretty cool. But like, he's not the arsonist, so it's always been a bit of an odd one. Like, why does he have it? Like, it's a cool thing to have, but why does he specifically have it? Has always been my vibe. But
Oh, he
again,
ran out of gas a couple of miles back, and he's hoofing it back to his bike.
again, it's cool that you get the Alice pack and the gas canister that you can pop on there. It makes for a fairly sophisticated like accessory. Also, that chain thing he's got is probably more dangerous to him than it is to his opponents. But in toy form, it makes perfect sense. And his chainsaw will always have the, should I say, dishonor of me seeing it after the core, because the 3-headed chainsaw from the core is my favorite ridiculous chainsaw. And then my second favorite is cesspools, and then buzzball. I mean buzzball. But yeah, man, I get why you dig him, man. There is something cool about him. There's a coolness
But is
to
it
him,
as
like I said.
cool? Who's next? Oh Lord, the Crimson Guard.
Oh,
Or-
jeez.
Ah, no.
Ah. You know, the
Like-
irony with the Crimson Guard is, I don't think we're
What?
going to talk about him for too long, because
Ooh.
he's an outstanding figure. What else is there to say? I mean, this is just pure class.
Yeah. An elite
I could do without the
figure.
backpack. Like I think most
yeah?
people could. Like the
Word.
backpack on a sort of a more ceremonial garbed figure doesn't really make the most sense.
Well, that's why it's so weirdly shaped. So kind of just like you can still wear it, and hopefully it'll not look too weird. He has
What
to
are
put
they
his
putting in
disguise
there?
in somewhere. His disguise. You know?
Right.
It's
Okay.
his stuff. He puts it in there.
That's
Yeah,
what
but
I've always felt as
it's
well.
true though. I think a backpack doesn't feel right for an elite guy. But then he would only come with a gun. Like what could he have come with instead? Like a briefcase? A briefcase could maybe work.
Oh, look, as
Might
far
be
as
a
I'm
better option.
concerned, that gun is the greatest assault rifle in the line.
Wow.
It's all he
Ooh.
needed. But I'm never going to poo-poo the idea of an additional accessory. You can always just leave it in the drawer. But yes, this figure, black, silver, and all of that crimson, it's a masterclass in like figure design.
Definitely.
Beautiful.
And there's just something about the toy version of it that will always have this edge. Like, I've seen a lot of, we've all seen a lot of modern representations of this sideshow, the modern era figure line, and even classified. And there's just something specific about the vintage that just looks right. That looks more right. It's almost like making him more believable is actually the wrong way to go. And they've just got him straddling the line between believability and fantasy. And I'm referring mostly to his face and how that whole slit and everything works. It's very clever. It's a very clever visual thing for me. So yeah.
Oh, gosh.
It's so good. Must be nice to own one.
How many of you in the comments own? How many Crimson Guards do you guys own in the comments? Do you guys in the comments own? Let us know.
Well, Rob, you've got
Curious.
a custom Crimson Guard.
I
with,
do have a nice custom version of him, with the scoop head. So I do own him, yes.
Yes, that, yes.
I don't think it's the kind of figure that
And a
you have
later
many
version
of,
as
to be honest. If you see a Crimson Guard, you buy. Simple
Yeah.
as that.
But to me, that version that I own, that's scoop. It's not a Crimson
Yes.
Guard. It which is weird to say. I mean, it is literally a Crimson Guard figure, but I don't think of him like that. Strangely enough.
Personal favorite of mine, Dusty, is up next.
Oh my goodness.
Dusty.
A man
I adore this figure.
for the times. I mean, beautiful.
Deceptively complex. Like
Yeah,
the
it's so simple
bipod.
to-
Once you've had that bipod in your collection, it elevates this figure to being not just a guy with a backpack and a gun. Like, you start drilling down onto the details, like the tampos. He's got a little American flag. There's no blue present on it because they couldn't do, an overlay of 2 colors. But it's there, man. Stars and stripes.
It's right there. He always carries it with him wherever he goes.
A very tasty use of soft goods. Like this is how you do it, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
Everybody, Havelock.
Keep that Havelock on lock. Yep. Perfectly scaled from us. I mean, when I first saw this gun, I thought, oh, it's too dainty, it's too small. But I was a latter-day GI Joe fan. Everything was oversized when I came into the line. Here we
Mhm.
have rifles accurately scaled to the figure, and it's once you slip it into the hand and have the boldness to get the magazine tucked in behind his forearm, it fits in so well. I've done so many cool like sniper poses with him, on like a ledge with this gun. Great.
And when
Awesome.
he feels
Yeah.
threatened, the Havelock can pop up like a frill.
It's like a meerkat. Mhm.
Ooh. The real question is, for those in the comments, does your Dusty have print on the Havelock, or have you got a clean Havelock? Because there are variations.
Oh.
I heard somewhere that Playware makes the paint kind of lift and disappear.
Hmm.
I don't know if that's been proven correct or not.
I'd like to think you played with yours a lot. If it hasn't lifted off by now, it's not gonna.
But also, Steve, you didn't have him. I mean, I remember. I could be misremembering, but I'm sure I remember when you got Dusty as a vintage
Yeah,
figure.
I didn't have him as a kid. I found him in Johannesburg actually.
Uh-huh.
But
All missed out.
I have, I think, 3 Dusties. I have in my time had 4. I think
Wow.
one of them wound up with you, Rob. But
Possibly.
yeah, I've got sort of even numbers of them have print on the Havelock, and even numbers don't. You know,
Mm.
it's 50-50.
Unfortunate. And also this year, this is the first figure that's exploring an environment. We'll find at least one other one later in this line. But yeah, a desert trooper.
We had a snow trooper in Snow Job.
Yeah, for sure. But I think this year kind of expands on the idea of environments, especially with the next one where we can enter the waters with Cobra's elite diving men, the Cobra eels. And yeah, it's a winner.
Yeah. Yeah, like, and that is the understatement of the year.
Mhm.
I think eels are one of the finest toys ever produced. In the 80s. Never mind, just like in GI Joe.
Wow.
But as far as GI Joe goes, the eels is an outstanding and an incredible toy. It is.
Yeah.
It's got so much character. I mean, you don't see the whole face; you just have enough to see in the visor and the goggles. And even there's an intensity there that I was very impressed with, carried through to the modern era eels as well. Surprisingly, but which shows you how much of a part of its character or part of its design, like how important that was in its design, that it was picked up on many years ago when they did a redesign of it.
I don't know, Paul. I think you might have said at the time that some of the intensity is lost with the modern. We're talking about the 25th anniversary eels,
Yeah, like at least
like
they
the
still have
really
it. Though.
arched eyebrows, and how thick the sort of paint is applied to the eyes, on the original. It's
Yeah,
that's how it's done, ladies and gentlemen.
and
And
the fact
taking
that the
like a
helmet goes in, as well. You've got like
yes, this cavity, this depth to it.
such
So
class.
once again, you're not going to get a transparent plastic piece. That would have been the next step, but that would have created a additional kind of obscuration. You wouldn't get,
Yep.
you wouldn't be able to see into the eyes as clearly had they done that.
Yeah, I mean, even like later on in the 90s, they still hadn't really perfected that. I feel it was very difficult for them to actually get see-through plastic right, so they used it very sparingly.
I think it would have taken from this figure. I mean, as Steve mentioned, like it would have like obfuscated the face too much.
Yeah, the
And
intensity.
it would have also magnified it as well and kind of made it look a bit goofy.
Yeah, no one would
It's
have
perfect, like teched out frogman, but then they go the extra mile and slap that glorious, glorious red color on the chest and put a silver cobra symbol on it. Like that's That's how you do it, guys. That's how you take,
Mhm.
a
Whaling.
character class like a frogman, like a diver, and cobrify it very
Mm.
tastefully.
How dare they?
Flint fans in the house, raise your hand.
Whoa, whoa.
He certainly is.
He's a big
I
I'm
fan
like
a
of
that
fan of
shotgun.
myself.
I like that shotgun.
Jeez.
I'm not perfect, but I do okay.
Yeah, we get
Uh,
another hero character for GI Joe, a main character, obviously picked up by the cartoon, and because he's higher up as well, I think they kind of make him more of a main character.
Flint was your guy, Rob, growing up, so I kind of
Yeah.
steered clear of him a bit. Only now that we're no longer playing together as much, I've really taken Flint on and also kind of incorporated the Action Force comic books love for
Mm.
him as a front and center guy. He was the Duke of across the pond
Yeah,
in the UK. He was the heroic leader of the team. So by that standard, like the figure really does stack up. He's got character, he's got bravado, and better engineering than Duke. Duke was a
yeah,
Franken-Joe. Flint is all
Yeah.
new parts, and they are very, very good parts.
he stands
Just
out.
ask
The
Lady
color
J.
scheme- he stands out. I mean, he's got the great camo on the pants, the black top, and somehow the beret. I don't know, beret just kind of makes someone feel like they're in charge.
Even when
Oh,
it's in danger of just being knocked off. It does look
Yeah.
like he's recovered from a punch, and the beret's kind of about to
So-
flop to the floor.
I watched this really cool TV show on Apple Plus, which was set in World War II. It's the Masters of the Air.
Mm.
And so there you got your like World War II commandos and pilots and all that. And when they are on their downtime, the one or two guys that do wear their berets do kind of wear it a little bit to the side. It seems to be like a swagger thing for sure. And it actually is quite as intense as Flint's is. It's a very like I'm a cool kid in the on the base look. So
Yeah, I
By
think
the
that's
way-
a deep, having him wear it like that, like that's meant to also show off his character. It feeds into who he is.
I also
If there's
love
one
that
change
kind
I
of
would make it would be to square it off a little bit more, but
Nah.
that's what they decided back in the day.
I agree with you on that actually. Like, although I love the concept of doing it, I also would have preferred to have had it squared off a bit more, just for the aesthetic. And also, by the way, guys, Masters of the Air, you've got to watch. It's brilliant, really, really great.
Cool. Let me just subscribe to another online streaming service.
But yeah, if this was your hero figure, you were treated because Flint is excellent. And
Yeah,
gotta come
once
back
you
to
go
it, man.
Flint, don't go back.
Wonderfully scaled shotgun. It might seem a little bit puny compared to stuff that we got later with Muskrat, Falcon,
Mm.
but it's accurately scaled. Like this is the gun, man. This is the trench gun. It's a statement of who he is. Like he's actually a helicopter pilot. This is like a backup weapon.
Mhm.
In any
Oh, it's a
case,
shotgun.
Footloose.
Ooh. Now
Oh.
this man has a good helmet.
Yeah, the salad helmet.
Paint application on
The-
a helmet. That's something special.
Yep. And the camo detail there, it's awesome. Footloose is kind of, and I don't want to like blow my complete wad when we talk about him here. You guys know why. But Footloose is probably one of the most Vietnam era looking Joes. And yeah, and I always find it something a little bit like almost a little bit haunting about him because of that. Like here he's this like Vietnamish looking dude. His helmet is still very much like designed to be there in the Viet Cong or when he against the Viet Cong. And it's just there's something about him that's just a little bit scary in that respect.
Yeah.
But and also very generic, if I can put out there as well. Like by the
It's
same
funny,
token,
I
quite
was going to
generic.
say that like for an infantryman, he's not generic, and it's because of that moustache. Like
Yeah, that helps a lot.
this is a super duper upgrade to Grunt. But if you used Grunt as an army builder, suddenly Footloose, he's got too much character to be that.
Mm.
You can also say.
You can also say.
So we have Buzzer, who kind of is the smart guy who kind of suddenly rebels against society when he kind of like comes to a realization and he's anti-establishment. But Footloose is also an exceptionally smart person, and he kind of comes to a point in his life where he's like, what next? But he turns that into something positive. You know, he joins the military and he kind of goes to make some sort of change in the world and find himself, as it were. So it's interesting, that parallel between him and Buzzer.
Huh. Hadn't really thought about
Nice.
that way.
Yeah.
And I mean, he rounds out a trio of like academians, because Flint is also from the hallowed grounds of the Rhodes University. What is it? Rhodes Scholar? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So we got a couple of smarties this year. Yeah.
Which probably puts him at odds with the rest of the Joes, you know, to be fair. Because you know, he may not have done basic and all that with them. Or with other.
Yeah, Flint,
GIs.
he's fully, you know, command structure, not grunt.
Also, just a heads up: just be very careful with Footloose's rifle with these with his M16. It's like a Gen 1 M16. The one that I've got is actually broken from the hand grip. You know, so it snapped in half. Not my snapping. That's when I bought it. It was complete, but it had a broken broken rifle. So just be aware of that, guys.
I have more broken copies of this gun than unbroken.
Wow.
Just problematic having the handle so close to the sling. In fact, there are several pressure points that can snap on this gun. The barrel so thin, the foregrip into the sort of the main body of the weapon. I've had one snap along there.
That's mine. Wow. Yeah, as well.
Well, I mean, this is the flip side of having really nicely scaled and accurate looking accessories to guns, is that when you get a gun that is quite thin and you scale that to the size, it can create problems. But it's still a great gun if you
look. Thank goodness for that sling, because most Footlooses are just posed with the M16 slung over his shoulder or over his body, because it's nigh impossible to get him to hold that gun without endangering either the stock, the sling, or his thumb. I've got a Footloose that is a very wide thumb. In fact, one had cracked slightly, and I just slipped some glue in there to try and prevent it from cracking any further. But terrific figure. Let's not poo-poo it too much.
Yes, you see a green army man, but look closer.
Yeah.
You see lots of great detail there.
Absolutely.
Lady J is next.
Nice. Another lady for the line.
An essential figure for me. One of the very first figures I bought when I had access to the internet. I needed Lady J. She seemed to fit the team better than Scarlet, and certainly didn't have the same kind of frailty issues. Even back then, in the late 90s, I was kind of less keen, less inclined to having the unitard wearing Scarlet in with the boys. Like, Lady J just spoke to me, man. That was the figure I wanted.
She fits the aesthetic of an army better than Scarlet does.
Agreed. I also think she's a much better looking female sculpt. Face sculpt than Scarlet. I mean, that's not exactly a high bar, to be fair. But Lady J's face sculpt is really cool. Also, special mention to how the hair is done on it. It's good. It's a good toy, and I actually find Lady J's design to be understated sexy. Again, look at Lady J and you see Army Lady in green fatigues. Look closer and you see sexy army lady in green
Yeah,
fatigues.
that's a onesie. How easy is that going to to take off? Real easy.
I don't know if this was a Bill Merkline or someone else, but whoever sculpted it put the buttons of her shirt in rather strategic places.
Mm.
I mean, are they buttons?
Oh, don't zoom in
My
now.
my Lady J's skin tone on her chest had already kind of faded to the point where it looks like she's wearing a white t-shirt underneath, which is
Hmm.
a believable way to wear this outfit. But yeah,
Yeah.
if you've
Yes.
got one that has
You would have
vibrant
an
flesh tones
undershirt.
still,
You're
well,
lucky.
it's just because the articulation line makes it weird.
Mm.
Characters that have plunging necklines have to contend with the ball joint
Yeah, not
and
very-
chest gap. It looks like they're wearing a shirt, like a flesh-colored shirt.
Yeah, and you can't always match that color perfectly as well, I guess.
No,
You know, it's just two separate pieces. Maybe the head is depending on how the colors are done, the flesh tone will be
It's-
painted on.
It's so difficult to say because of the passage of time. I imagine that
Mm.
their colors were quite close together when these were first produced.
Oh, for sure, much closer,
Yeah.
but I don't think you could ever get it perfectly correct. You know,
I always
like the-
armed
how
my
you
Lady
go about-
J
Mm.
with a core Uzi and Lifelines pistol
Wow.
Yeah, that tracks.
because the accessories did leave something to be desired. The chick needs a gun, man.
She's got a
Every
stick.
Yeah.
female Joe needs a gun.
They deserve a gun. They need to hold that in their hands, No, they can blow a man away. Needs be.
But I did get
Um,
some play out of the other two accessories. Like the spear gun was a cool, like sort of anti-tank weapon, and the camera. I mean, if you're doing sort of espionage, the camera did see some play.
Espionage.
The camera is a winner. The spear launcher is, yeah,
It's
too out there.
there. It's there.
I am grateful that they saw fit to make them flexible plastic at the outset. Like Joe accessories sometimes got revisions when they had thin breakable parts. They'd start off with a run of plastic that was hard and brittle. Then I guess a running change to then make it flexible. A good example is Blowtorch. But with Lady J, all copies have very flexible accessories, both the camera and the spear gun, harpoon gun.
Mm.
Good figure.
And then now
Similarly-
we get a wild card. Quick
Oof.
kick. I mean,
Quick kick.
He's a kung fu dude, and he comes from Hollywood. That's such a cool backstory. It's so different, and he's kind of like just hired onto the Joes because he's so good at like kicking shit.
Ozen Fudgy.
Whack.
And just unique,
I mean-
so different, Like you don't
Mhm.
have to look closely at this guy to see how different and cool he is. From a distance, he's cool.
Quick kick is super cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Your
the
GI
coolest.
Joe experience is enriched by having
Yes.
Quick Kick in the roster. It's
Mhm.
not just a line of Green Army men. These are heroes. And Quick Kick is probably the first best example of like elevating GI Joe into superherodom
Mm.
because he shouldn't work. He should not have a place, especially not dressed like this.
Yeah.
Mm.
Barefoot, bare chested.
But if
Yeah,
you've
he-
contrived your plot so far enough to find a use for this guy, then you're having fun. Then you're doing GI Joe right, as far as I'm concerned. And the same can be said for an example that's coming up very soon. But yes, Quick Kick, wonderful.
Are those also buttons that are sculpted on him, or are those actually nipples?
He's got no
Wow.
fabric there, man. He has got nips.
No, I know.
He's got nips. He's got like rib cage musculature.
Yeah.
Like this. Oh, I've got my Quick Kick here with me.
He still has his quick kick. What is he
I can
even
admire
doing?
that wonderful
Why
torso.
Why isn't he touching that torso?
There's human anatomy sculpted into this figure that, like, just demonstrate the progression of GI Joe sculpting. Like, if you take the 1982-83 series as a bunch of guys wearing essentially body condoms with no
Mhm.
no serious sort of folds or or bunching of the fabric. Like here, you've got multiple textures. Oh man, quick kick.
Quick kick.
So, how does his backpack fit to him? How's he wearing that thing?
I don't
It's
know.
the sash.
Kung Fu
it's the
magic, man.
sash, You know, the sash.
Oh,
Well,
I'm glad they
they
didn't give him
obviously
any
didn't
kind of
want to.
additional straps.
Yeah, I mean, it's understood that he's got straps, but you just don't see them because it ruins the look of the character when he isn't wearing the backpack.
I
Obviously.
think Quick Kick is most in danger of looking like he's from a competitive line. Like
yes.
the core did Hiro
It's a
Yamato
poor man.
and Dragon Han, and like Dragon Han had a bandana with I think a rising sun on it. At least in the artwork,
And
the
then
figure didn't
GI Joe
really.
was like, we can do that better. Look at this guy.
American Defense also had like some ninja-looking dudes or
Mm.
kung fu-looking dudes.
Mm.
But this is GI Joe's. I'm gonna say answer to that, but I know it actually came first. So GI Joe set the
Yeah.
precedent. But in my like retrospective GI Joe, because I kind of rediscovered or discovered these things first after the fact, like
Mhm.
this guy always felt like a knockoff to me. It's like GI Joe does cool army men. They don't do these weird things. But
How
yes, they
dare you
did.
say it.
They did.
They really did, and your life was enriched once you realized that this is a possibility in the Joe line.
I never had
And
a
he
problem
puts
with
in.
the claw system that exists
Mhm.
on Snake Eyes' backpack and Storm Shadow version
Mm.
2. But when you see how well the sword sheaths into Quick Kick's backpack, you're
They
suddenly
got
like,
it so right.
why didn't they keep doing that?
Yeah, because it's a
Yeah.
great idea and it really works. Works very well. It's
And
one
you
of my
don't
favorite
break no
features.
clips.
Yeah. There's literally just
And
a
it
hole
looks
in the back.
good
It
because you can
does.
sort of
It looks
tilt it the way you
appropriate.
want it to. It looks awesome. Like you can turn the backpack to its side to make it more.
It looks more realistic to have it go that way.
Swagger. Who else has got swagger? Ripper.
Rip.
Ah, Rocksteady.
Is he Rocksteady, not Bebop?
There's
He
not
looks
No,
like
Bebop.
Bebop's def. I don't know. I feel Torch is more Bebop than him. Ripper to me is very Rocksteady.
Hmm.
It's the
the gun.
like. No, it's the head. It's got like a rhino-ish quality. It also
Yeah, it
has a
does.
warthog-ish
And it's
quality, but
the glasses as well. They're a
the
little
gl-
more squared
yeah.
off, aren't they?
technically
from
that
the
would make him
distance.
more Bebop than Rocksteady. But there's just something
Oh.
very Rocksteady about him. Like his gear is very Rocksteady. In fact,
Yeah, and once again, wild accessories. A dreadnought must come with crazy stuff. And he does. It's got a can opener and a jaws of life.
Another sneaky reuse of the XMLR buck, as it were. You can see the
Mm.
barrel, the stock. They've added a scope. They've added a magazine. I kind of wish the standard XMLR had a magazine and a scope. Like, take away Ripper's can opener, and you've got like a better version of GI Joe's standard laser rifle.
Yeah.
Paul is still fumbling around. What's
no, I grabbed my Rocksteady out,
No,
but I don't think you were looking.
Bebop.
But for the
Ah,
viewers
sorry.
who are watching, you can sort of see that there is a bit of a Rocksteady vibe to him.
It
Man,
does
the
feel
torn mid, his midriff is exposed, which is so 80s. And
Mm.
Back when
it's
it was like
it's great that
macho for dudes to have ripped clothes and showing off their
Yeah.
midriff. That's funny, man. What a
It
sign
is
of the
funny.
times.
well, it's coming back. I mean, there are kids and stuff doing that now.
What, men
also-
wearing like just a shred of clothing like this?
Yes, yeah.
Some
we live in this-
moustaches are back in too, if you can believe that.
Oh,
Yeah, well,
well,
some-
speaking of, the facial hair on this character, in fact, the head sculpt in general, just incredible. Bit
Great
oversized, but
situation.
I guess they needed to push in on the details like this because he's got those furrowed foreheads. You know, he's obviously raising his eyebrows behind those glasses.
Mm.
The glasses are just so magnificent they've obscured. Or do you
So-
think he has no eyebrows? Do you think he's burnt his eyebrows off?
No, I think having eyebrows and glasses on the toy sculpt would have been an issue, but
Right.
but when you draw him and stuff, and you've got a little bit more space to play around with, you're not worried about how, you're in control of how light hits it. Then you can throw in some eyebrows. Definitely add to him. Although now that but also he wouldn't have burnt off his eyebrows. That would be Torch. So
Well,
well,
Torch was
it's
burnt
Torch's
versus
fault.
Ripper.
Torch was responsible
Probably.
for it. Yeah.
Gotta mention, like, on 3D Joe's, we've got a Ripper displayed with his Jaws of Life mounted to the backpack, which I've also tried that before, and it also does work, where you basically slot in one of the hooks through one of the holes in the Jaws of Life, and it kind of looks legit. But something I've never tried before is they've got the rifle slotted into the backpack, sort of in the middle there, and that I've never considered. That's an interesting little feature there. So that's cool.
Well, they're practical over at 3D Joe's. It's like, how do we show off all the accessories when the figure's only got two hands?
This is how 3D Joe's has it all, guys. Check them
I
out.
want to believe that that's a bit of insider info that was given to 3D Joe's guys, because obviously they've spoken to and interviewed the people who made these toys. So maybe, they got a few hot takes. So maybe that's like a secret feature.
Time to try
Which is
it
great,
out.
eh? We've been doing this podcast for 13 years, and we've been fans of GI Joe for like most of our whole life, more or less. And it's still cool to find something new like this. So,
Don't undersell us.
3D Joe's.
We've been doing this podcast for 14 years.
Oh, sorry,
Whoa.
14 years. 14 years, my bad.
years.
Oh,
No. But yes, guys, everybody has to have a Ripper in their collection.
if you like dreadnoughts, you need a Ripper.
I actually feel like you can't just have one dreadnought. I feel like once you buy one, you have to commit to buying them all.
Wow. Well, then I'm glad I'm committed to not buying them.
I spoke earlier about like your experience of GI Joe being enriched by having all the colorful characters in the roster, and you've got
more colorful.
2 tones of blue and a splash of green and yellow in the form of Shipwreck.
And
like if you want to paint with all the colors in the crayon box, yeah,
a character that I think people wouldn't have. You would have looked at this guy. I don't know. He's just too. He feels camp, but then you see him in the cartoon, and he just becomes cooler. He
is camp.
He's the quintessential sailor. He's just a sailor. But then is how they represent him in the cartoon kind of elevates him, and it makes you want to own the toy.
It's wild between Han Solo and Jack Nicholson's character on that. I'm blanking on the name, but that naval film. It's just so good.
Yeah,
and
you're gonna hear that a lot from me on this episode. Clearly,
replete with bell bottoms. Yeah,
and just
Shipwreck.
Fun accessories too. He comes with like a weird, like a little matlock, flintlock gun, and then like hooked. I don't know what is that.
It's like sort of a boarding anchor, I think.
Yeah. So that's what I've heard as well.
So weird. But it's
like
it's great.
Some kind of pirate tool to like.
Yeah, or it's supposed maybe hook onto But then it probably like when he was an actual pirate, when you're like sailing on like wooden ships.
No,
look,
actually,
all I know is it was used with devastating effect to knock the treads out of a hiss tank on GI Joe's first assault onto Cobra Island. So, like, the comic book was not afraid to lean into the accessories. And if you've watched Cold Slither recently, maybe you'd recall the animators even drew his flintlock. Oh, I think the card says it's a percussion pistol, if you want to draw that distinction. Which I believe the percussion pistol came later to the flintlock. Anyway, either way, Sunbow decided to make it a laser pirate gun. So they have depicted Shipwreck wielding this thing, and it's seen in that light. It absolutely doubles down on the Han Solo thing. A really characteristic blaster put it in the hands of this figure with this lanyard, which, I don't know, if you loop it over his forearm as they've done on 3D Joe's, which is how I do it, it kind of
Yeah.
straightens the gun in his hand a little bit.
Uh-huh.
The gun, for its size, is made less dainty by the fact that it is a flexible rubbery plastic. I'm so happy with that. Like, I know people complain about it in the modern era and sort of the classified range, but guys, you're avoiding breakages that way, provided
Yeah.
you can straighten your rifles out. I know that's a problem, but this one, mine's dead straight and perfect. Good gun. It's got a scope on it. What the hell?
Yeah.
Then
It's
again,
too
so
cool.
does Han
He's too
Solo's
cool.
blaster, actually. Is
Yeah.
he sniping people with that thing?
Oh, when you have to
No,
be extra,
it just
when you have
looks
to be
cool.
extra accurate. Or it looks cool.
It
I don't
just
know.
looks- It has
I just love that
extra.
it comes with this gun. And I watched a film called The Art of the Steel. And it's got Kurt Russell in, and at some point in the film, he does get sort of attacked by a guy who's carrying one of these guns as well. And he's
Just give me
also
5
got like,
minutes while I reload.
yeah.
It's the
No, but
last
it's-
detail for anyone who's about to jump into the comments to remind me. I remembered myself. The last detail with Jack Nicholson. There you go.
Yeah.
last detail. But yeah, guys, go and check out The Art of the Steel, because that moment with the dude that has that gun is hilarious, and it will have I love that this has come full circle now for me as well.
He's got
here on the
Polly,
episode.
a character in and of itself.
Mhm.
If you're fans of the cartoon, you know what this bird is capable of. It's basically a giant troll.
Yeah. Sometimes literally a giant.
Yes, very good. So power to you if you're able to play with him. I wish there was some way to have a bird at rest and in flight in one
Yes.
package. Like they weren't
Mm.
able to do, plug in, plug out wings at this point. But I would get a lot more play out of my Polly if I could have him, her, it, they in flight as well as at rest. But yeah, having a bird at rest makes him unique because Freedom was in flight, I think, and Raptor's bird is in flight. So this is very much a kind of a house pet.
Mm.
Yeah.
A
It's so
companion.
much easier to sculpt this way too.
Wow. All right. The rock stars keep
Oh.
coming with Snake Eyes version
Whoa.
2. The version of Snake Eyes. You can
Yeah,
try and
this is
deny
it.
it all you like, but there's a mystique to
Mhm.
this figure that is undeniable.
Yeah, it's the version that everyone picks, like whether it's in the movies, this is the one that they'll adapt, whether it's other companies other than Hasbro, when they choose to create a GI Joe figure, they will create this version of Snake Eyes. It's like a dude with goggles is cool, but having that grill is just uniquely
It's
recognizable.
cooler.
as Snake. Yeah, it's just way cooler.
For
sure.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
and he's got what, dude?
Comes with the wolf. I mean, that's pretty cool.
No, a wolf that's meant to look ferocious, but actually looks a little scared.
No.
In
I must
context.
say that always was my takeaway as well. Like the stature isn't very wolfly. Wolves have ears. This one's ears
Yeah.
are way back. So it's
Yeah.
displaying a mood that is only momentary. Like it's not prowling. It's
Also,
it's
wolves
ready
are
to
bigger,
pounce.
aren't they?
Yeah.
Technically, in real life, wolves are much bigger.
Yeah. They are
So-
big. They are big things. They are certainly bigger than most dogs. I mean, when I say most dogs, I think the only dog that I've seen that sort of compares to wolf size is like those Irish wolfhounds. Because those are also like giants. And yeah.
The sculpt is not served by the deco. Like a white deco with no paint apps really hide the fact that it is an incredibly well sculpted slug. From the jaws to the eyes to where the ears are placed, it's very good. And
I think they
it would
just
be
wanted
nice
to
if it was darker, if they could get into the details a little bit more.
Yeah, but they wanted to
They're
keep
just
the
gonna wash.
idea. Well, they wanted the essence of what Snake Eyes was. Like in the original line, he was like that character that was easy to make because it's just a black character. Like it's one color, And the philosophy of this one is it's the same thing again. Character completely in black, his accessories completely in white. I
When
think.
Steve said white, I was thinking
Yeah.
of timber.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of timber too, for sure.
But yeah, I agree with. It's not that I disagree. I think you're right, Rob. But I wouldn't want to change any paint tabs actually on the Snake Eyes anymore. I'm
No,
very
not at
happy
all.
with him being
Perfect
black
way,
on
yeah.
black and having a dark blue gray as his alternate. And you know, I feel like the best thing I can say about this figure is that if it wasn't for this version of Snake Eyes, I don't think the mystique of GI Joe would have carried me through my latter teen and early 20s, because those are the years where I got disconnected from GI Joe, but I'd always had the mystique of this character sort of pushing me forward. This was always my grail figure for me. So
We have to touch
there's a
upon the
power
fact that
to
it
this.
is the Grail. Like, that elevates it as well, unfortunately. The demand versus the supply. I mean, this was a mass-produced figure in a very mass-produced wave. So it shouldn't be as uncommon or as highly prized as it is. But it is, because it's Snake Eyes. And it's the one version that everyone wants. So getting this into your collection is somewhat of like it's a special moment. It certainly was for me.
Yeah, it's an odyssey. I also think a lot of kids out there played the shit out of their Snake Eyes, and I think maybe that's one of the reasons that you might have sort of a supply issue on these. Because although many were made, I think many died in the battlefield.
I inherited a played with but recarded collection from some family friends, and Snake Eyes version 2 is in there. But man, no crotch and no thumbs, and I've never seen his sword as chewed up as that version. So it clearly was the figure. Like the rest of the figures from that collection are in reasonable condition, but that Snake Eyes, whoo,
Yeah, he went
destroyed.
everywhere. On
Yeah.
the walls, through
Good.
doors, and soil. Yeah,
Play
good
them to
times.
death if you can. That's a true badge of honor. I mean, these are toys. Yep. Snake Eyes version 2. Glorious.
So good.
Snow Serpent. Once again. So good.
The greatest hits, man.
Welcome back.
Yeah, Snow Serpents are, again, look at it and you're just like, oh, it's a snow guy. Really look at it and you see that there's a real character here. There's a lot of thought and imagination that has gone into his sculpt. And it's just peppered with enough real, or should I say believability, to just ground it enough to make it a special figure.
And it's cool, the inclusion of the blue. It kind of breaks up the white really well. Kind of links it a little bit, I suppose, to like the Vipers or the original troops. Like there's still a little bit of the Cobra blue that comes into this.
I love it when Cobra ditches the blue a little bit, but still has a touch of it.
Yeah.
It's clearly Cobra with that gorgeous red symbol. But they are sensible enough to put a snow trooper in like snow appropriate colors.
And the mortar is, to me, the concept of the mortar is chef's kiss, because it mounts on the backpack. It just works. I mean, also you got the parachute pack on the waist, and that like gives you the story that, you know, these guys are like dropped, you know, into terrain, and they go in and place themselves, and they're like portable SAM sites, or they're, you know, they set up strategically for ambushes, and I just love them. And when you even go further and you look at the file card and you understand that this is part of the sort of career path of the eel, then it just makes them even more badass. Like this is a step above a standard Viper. So Snow Serpents.
They could have given him the Cobra Officer's AK, but they resculpted to give it an iron stock. Great. Good weapon.
Also, again, speaks to the specialized nature of it, where it can be folded. That stock
Yeah.
is foldable, and it makes it more portable, so easier for him to jump out of a plane with, or
I've really
aircraft
enjoyed
with.
using snow serpents in like fangs because they do
Yes.
look like they've got a sort of a pilot's helmet. And
Mm.
you're going to be encountering, like, unless you're in a very hot part of the world, if you're taking an aircraft up into the sky and it's an exposed cockpit, you need to dress
It's
warmly.
cold.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, like, I also don't think it should be like glanced over. Is his helmet has got a very German, very Russian style to it. The GRU.
Yes.
Yeah, it's got a very
Mhm.
like, and I've always liked that nod because this was the Reagan era. Well, coming from the Reagan era, should I say?
Yeah, bad guys wear
Yeah.
that style of hat. I suppose
Mm.
it would be like a Soviet tanker, like someone who drives
Mm.
tanks. That kind
Mm.
of getup. I mean, Horror Show is a good example of that.
For sure.
Whatever
Yeah,
it's
like
called,
full on
that Russian hat.
hat thing.
Televiper, I'll come right out and say it. He's a weak link for me.
Crazy.
But
It's interesting, like when Cobra comes up with like a support character, often it's a weak link, but when GI Joe comes up with the support character, it's actually kind of cool. I don't know why it works that way.
in
Airtight's
hindsight, we can
cool,
say that the
barbecue's cool.
purple. In hindsight, we can say that the incorporation of purple was a precursor to all the kind of the purple freaks of the line, the Toxovipers,
Mhm.
Televipers, Hydrovipers. So it started with Televiper.
Yeah, they're the ones that ruined it all.
Or it's the Cobra Technical Division, because I mean the Techno Vipers would also have purple, and they also technical. So there's
So
also
purple
that's the
means
association.
technical.
Sorry, did I not
Yeah.
say Technoviper? Yeah.
Yeah, no, you were just like
Fine.
them damn Toxo Vipers.
Those fight.
Fantastic head sculpt. If you manage to find one that doesn't have paint rub on the nose.
Clown nose, yeah. This guy's face sculpt was totally free of this until a movie called Napoleon Dynamite came out, and now I can't unsee the gosh face on him.
That
And for
lip.
that lip, yeah. And Rob, I mean, I don't know. I think you might agree with me here, but like for an unremarkable figure, they have gone at lengths to try and make him interesting visually.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you
No,
think?
I think. Well, I mean, the blue and the purple, it breaks up interest in an interesting way. I like his backpack. I think his backpack's pretty cool.
Yes.
But I still don't understand what his gun's meant to be. He's like
Nobody
airtight,
does.
basically, but he hoovers more.
So it is essentially the precursor to the iPhone or any phone that has a front-facing camera.
Yeah.
You're able to see an image in the front, but also I think because of the scope, maybe the scope is where the lens is.
Yeah.
It's able to transmit an image. So you got face-to-face video calling essentially
That's wild.
live on the battlefield. It's a
Yeah,
vanity
it's an
thing. Cobra
interesting
Command is
concept.
able to like see and be seen by his troops.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And communications
suppose-
are important in the battlefield.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's an important thing to have in the structure of Cobra, but not necessarily people's favorite character.
Rob, you're a
Or-
Scoop fan. This is your opposite number. I mean,
It's
what
true.
what screams cameraman more than a quilted, like sleeveless pullover?
Actually,
bet
he's got a tog jacket. Yeah.
totally. Don't know if he's got film in there. He's probably carrying something more sophisticated and Cobra-esque, but
Mhm.
he's fit for purpose. Just in a year of rock stars, he's kind of like just I've got him as well kind of character. I don't think I ever
Yeah,
would
he's
have
the janitor.
prioritized getting. I certainly didn't. I actually saw Teddy Vipers growing up, and I was like, "That's weird.
Yeah.
Not going to prioritize getting that."
I think it works more when he's a named character. So, like with Scoop, he's a specific guy who's a film guy.
Mm.
While just the concept of an entire troop type, that's the filming dudes, I think that just doesn't feel as unique or interesting to own.
I will always call out, however, that it's the chef's kiss to any more mediocre figure to manage to fit the Cobra symbol on, even on a kind of a rolled sleeve. They don't really have much real estate to work with, but they tampered a Cobra symbol on there because that is such an essential like bit of the furniture for any Cobra figure. You miss that, and all of a sudden, it looks like something sci-fi. It looks like something different, but it needed that little identifier to push it over the edge. Yeah, Cobra figures that lack it really are bereft of something.
Yeah,
The cool
step below.
something, but the magic behind the Televiper is that your Cobra Terradrome benefits from having them, and I say them like more than one.
Absolutely.
Because who wants to occupy one of those boring work desks with one of your named Cobras? Get a lackey to do it. And I've always liked the idea of one of these guys being behind the console as opposed to a Cobra Trooper, because Cobra Troopers behind those kind of things always looks wrong to me. It always looks misplaced. And so Televipers do serve a very important purpose in your collection. And maybe more so because of how like innocuous they are. But I agree with Steve. It definitely is not the prom queen in this.
Yeah, if you had to
in this
choose a
year.
figure to skip this year, I would probably say Televiper. Like if you had to choose just one.
We've
that
got Cobra Army Builders and we've got Dreadnoks in 1985. Who's calling the
Exactly.
shots, though? Who are the big bads? It's Tomex
Ooh.
and Zay.
Of course, these two
Signing the
boys.
checks, getting
There they are.
erect.
Zaymot and Tomax.
What did Cobra need at this point? They needed circus performers. That's what they were lacking in their command structure. They had Masters of Disguise, they had saboteurs, they had intelligence operatives, they had weapons dealers. Like, they needed the money men. Tomex and Zaymot are that. And this is coming back to my points about 1985 being a kind of an add-on year and not a soft reboot or hard reboot. Like, this year, you didn't get big baddies other than these two guys.
Yeah, filling out the ranks. And I mean, also with them being the commanders of the
Crimson Guard.
Crimson Guard, I mean, it's complementary to introduce the Crimson Guard, and then who are the leaders? It's these guys.
Well, we finally get that connection being demonstrated more clearly in the Skybound presentation of these guys, where their troops specifically are the Crimson Guard.
Yeah,
they bring them into battle. It's their faction. It was less clear in the cartoon series or the comic books, for instance, where
they're just kind of around, and like often the Crimson Guards themselves would kind of have their own plots and stuff going on with no connection whatsoever to Thomas and Zaymot. Like Fred 7 or 8, whatever the hell his name was, taking over as Cobra Commander.
Cobra
that had
Commander
nothing to do with them,
Precisely.
I mean, if there was that connection, can you imagine how more interesting that storyline would have been? It's Thomas and Zaymot kind of like trying to oust Cobra Commander and kind of put their own guy in place to be in charge of Cobra. That could have been way more interesting, but it obviously still worked out in the long run.
I don't think TNX got better representation than they did in the cartoon, which made them out to be those suit-wearing, like, yuppie 80s businessmen.
Scumbags.
Yeah.
Putting all sorts of things up their nose off camera. We don't get them in their blue suits. We get them in their circus gear, which is fun, which is very toyetic. But yeah, I think they would have gotten more play if at the outset we had the suited and booted look that Super 7 made recently.
I remember seeing this set in CNA a couple of times in Cresta and just never pulling the trigger on it. I think it was just like the fact that I was getting two identical figures and that the XS3 wasn't interesting enough that I never pulled the trigger on it. But my friends had them and they were siblings and that was great for them because the one had the one and the other had the other, and I think that's where it made sense. So
well, you mentioned
if you're going to get these, make sure you got a sibling.
Yeah, for sure. Make sure you have at least a brother or a sister, and you guys can, not fight each other.
Finish each other's sentences and stuff. Yeah. Plus, I mean, you get 2 figures for the price of 2. So that was always a bit of a controversial thing with this as well, wasn't it? Like, it wasn't even
Yeah.
cheaper for the 2 figures.
How do you
It's like-
convince your mom or dad to buy you 2 figures, essentially, well, in their eyes, anyways, that are identical, but
Mm,
not discounted in any way?
mm.
Well, if they'd read the file card, they would understand why they look the same, but they actually aren't.
But damn it, Rob, your parents can't read.
I'm gonna call out, and this is something that
Okay.
only an adult collector would appreciate, and that's the fact that like they didn't save on tooling costs with these guys. They
No.
didn't add secondaries to change the orientation of the figures. These are mirror sculpts, but they're not the same sculpts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they're literally 2 different figures. They actually aren't identical.
They had to have separate tooling for each. Insane. Maybe the crotches are the same. Maybe the lower legs are the same. But everything else, you've got a holster mounted on opposite thighs. You've got the shoulder armor on opposite shoulders. You've
Yeah.
got the
Obviously, the
flare
head
on
sculpt.
the direction of the sash, the
Mhm.
where the placement of the cobra symbol. Yeah. Wow. Even the heads, they could have just made them identical, but no. The one part's on the other side, and the
The
other
one way.
part's is here on the
And
correct.
that's always been a thing for me, by the way. That's always been a weird detail. I always feel like the head should be swapped. I don't know what it is. It's just something about the hair
Oh,
parting
you want
that
the
just goes
parting
against the
to
line.
be. So you want the
Opposite
parting
to
to
that.
be opposite the flare.
Yes, like so when they
Uh-huh.
actually the parting is opposite the flare, or should I say the quaff is
Yeah, well, the
like,
parting. So
opposed-
the line
yeah.
is closer to the flare. So you'd want the line to be on the opposite
away
side.
from it. Yeah,
My
because when you
word.
stand them next to each other, if you stand them next to each other, like the ones, Gayfee, what's it,
Fringe.
should go over the one side, and the other ones should go on the other side. Like they should make that shape, but because if you put them next to each other, their fringes are actually contrapposto. It's like it's weird. It's a weird thing. It's just it's something that's like a small detail that bugs me every now and then.
I
Like
have
if
never
I notice
considered
it,
that,
then it bugs
Paul.
me.
You are potentially the only person on the planet who that bothers, and I'm going to stand by that. If anyone else is bothered by the direction of Tomex and
Let
Zemot's
us know in
hair
the comments.
parting, let us know in the comments.
You're gonna be so surprised, Stephen. You're gonna be like,
Shh,
"Why
it's a
did I look
deluge of male.
Let's start a support group.
Yeah, man. I had these as a child, and I kind of never really connected with them too much. Only outside of GI Joe play did they find some intrigue. I think I used them as like Sith Lords. I took one of them, whichever one didn't have broken knee pads. Because yes, don't be inserting Tomex and Zaymot into tight vehicle canopies and cockpits, like the Hammerhead, for instance. You'll lose those pads. Those glorious like knee pads. Anyway, I used him as a Sith Lord with like a Batman cape draped over his one shoulder and a red lightsaber. It was a good look
Mhm.
because yeah, the details are great. The snake, like thigh pads, wow, awesome, and very easily lost silver paint, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So to play with one of these is to see that deteriorate pretty quickly. But they look great here on 3D Joes. Rounding
Yeah,
out the
lovely
unholy
stuff.
trinity, it's Torch. Perhaps my
The
least
foil
favorite
to
of the
barbecue.
three,
Oh yeah.
because he
Wow.
wasn't he wasn't on our card backs. Torch wasn't marketed at all in the South
So he
African
never existed
assortment.
for you. And he's also
No.
the guy showing the most chest. If
Oof.
that has anything to do with it.
He definitely waxes though. I mean, you can't grow that much beard and have an absolutely baby smooth chest like this. But
very
yes, it's the
important.
sculpting technology of the time. I mean, imagine if they tried to put some man fur on that.
Oh god, he'd just look like a werewolf essentially, like this big fur thing
Zangief.
underneath it.
Yeah.
But still,
What way-
he fits the aesthetic. Like they really matched the 3 dreadnoughts to each other. You know, kind of like the blue pants, and then the kind of like some sort of wild upper body thing going on. All of them have kind of like crazy hairstyles. All of them have glasses. but he has that extra little bandana going on there, which is
Yeah.
quite nice. Kind of little extra red detailing above his glasses.
He's
And
got
then
those, like,
yes,
he's got those dickhead black sunglasses, like those
yes.
ones that have like the blocks on the side. Yeah.
Yeah. And probably the least out there accessory. I mean, compared to the other two, but still very deadly and very unorthodox. A flamethrower.
So mean.
The visual
Oh.
intrigue is a little bit lower on Torch compared to his brother. He doesn't have any tats.
Yeah.
Well,
And
they
the
make
legs
up
are a
for that
bit plain.
with
Just
the
2 tones.
chain, like he's got that chain on his chest there. Doesn't have the tats because he's got the
The skull.
And he keeps
Yeah.
his
But you-
belt up or his trousers up with an actual chain. That's a neat
Mhm.
detail. Yeah, I don't think I've really admired this figure enough to see this more detail. Like, this is the first time I've realized that, like, his red bandana goes over his hair
His
on
hair
the
in the
left
back.
side and then under his hair on the right. So he's kind of disheveled. Like, this tuft of hair is under the band, like tucked in on the one side and tucked out on the other side.
Yeah,
Tucked out.
they
That's
thought about these guys a lot. I mean, whoever put the effort into these things and convinced Hasbro, like, these should be in your GI Joe line. They fought for them and they put a lot of love and effort into them.
I'm
I
going to
can't
skip
help but think-
Tripwire version 2.
Oh,
he's
you don't want listening fun Tripwire? You don't like him all decked out in red?
Boys,
Tripwire
we've got
is great.
vehicles to talk about. We've got more vehicle drivers to talk
Oh my
about. We are
goodness.
going to do this in a part 2.
I think so too.
The
Yeah.
40th
we've
anniversary of
done figures.
1985 cannot be celebrated in one podcast episode
For
alone.
sure. I mean, like I
Yeah.
made a list. This is the entire year represented in a giant
But
list.
don't let people pause it and be able to see it, Rob.
I'm pretty sure after 40 years, people know what's going on here. But yeah, it's I mean, as we are finishing figures,
Let us know in the comments if you know what's going on. I'm kidding.
I mean, that's one of the. I mean, it's already obvious from the figures. My biggest gripe with this year is that we have a lot more GI Joe figures than we do Cobra figures. So there's only a couple of Cobras, while the year is actually predominantly weighted towards GI Joes this year. I would have actually preferred it to be maybe a little bit more equal, but I mean, as you know, a preview of what's coming up, there's a ton of GI Joe extra stuff going on here, and vehicles and everything else.
I feel like
That's one of my gripes with this year is that it's too weighted towards GI Joe. There's not enough cool Cobra stuff coming out this year, at least overall.
I think because this
quality
year
of
offers
man.
Mhm.
Yeah, well, because this year offers 2 biggish playsets, one being the biggest playset, I think
Ever.
they opted to have troop builders for Cobra.
Yeah.
And yes, the Snow
does
Serpent
make
might be a weird choice, considering that one of those playsets happens to be an aircraft carrier. But
Well, you have,
yeah,
as we'll discover in episode 2, there is a counterpart in GI Joe for the Snow Serpent. So there's reasons why he's there.
so I mean that's pretty cool.
It just comes
Also-
back to my overarching point that, like, 85 didn't try to replace necessarily.
It
and
is
more just
complementary.
add on. Like,
Mhm.
in the previous 1984 series, Cobra got, like, heavy hitters, like named character heavy hitters.
Yeah,
They weren't
like
going to try and redo that.
those guys,
Those guys.
those people.
Also, I have to bring this to people's attention. This is probably one of my
It's gotta
other
be-
gripes from 85. Why are his jeans so tight there by his butt? It's like he's wearing a G-string
You're
under
referring
there.
to
And I'm talking about
Torch, yeah.
Torch.
yeah.
Yeah. Guys, if you look at this, I've actually noticed this on the figure as well and been like, oh my word, like, is he like inverse farting his jeans? I have this kind of tension.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just had to bring that to people's attention because if I didn't, what would your anxiety, do without it?
Who would
Anyway,
ever tell you about that?
I
Only
imagine
Paul
Torch
will.
is
Paul
dumpster
is the
diving
one.
like Kyle
He's the
Reese
one.
on the run from the LA cops. Like, he's just picking up whatever he can find, putting it on
with
quick.
his ass, apparently. It's like, boom.
As always,
can
boys
carry
and
it,
girls,
look, my hands.
we love our patrons. They love us. They send us some bucks every month to keep the lights burning, to keep the
Incredible people.
StreamYard paid up. Thank you.
Yes.
Keeps GI Joburg from running at a loss. I mean, I love my
For
hobby,
sure.
but I don't like it
Same.
taking money from me.
No, no.
Yeah,
at
I'm so
all.
glad we can
No one
actually. Yeah, exactly, guys. And it's nice
By
to
the
be
same
able to have a little
token,
bit of.
GI
Yeah.
Joburg YouTube channel members, thank you. My babies who I give a vlog every week, which is, I mean, I've not skipped a week. Not that I can
You really
recall.
haven't. 148 weeks
Something like that.
going strong.
So it's
My
fun
goodness.
to
How was
have
that
this
interesting?
avenue to sort of really communicate with our, I suppose, our inner circle, folks who see fit to chuck us some bucks every month. Awesome.
Yeah, keep the lights on, as we always like to say.
Yeah.
But yes, GI Joburg will always be free for GI Joe
100%.
fandom everywhere, here on the
Especially if you
YouTubes
like
and
and
on your
subscribe.
podcasts.
That's
Yes,
true.
yes. If you, it costs nothing.
like-
Just one or two clicks,
clicking
a like and a subscribe.
If you click subscribe, it's real easy. Why
So
not?
thank you for everyone doing that. Thank you for everyone commenting on these videos. That also helps. the
Damn, we've
channel.
had some great comments over the
have.
last
For sure.
few
100%.
episodes. Yeah. And
So
some really
strong.
cool stories from you guys as well. So please, yeah, I love hearing that stuff. I love our comment section. And
Paul
I've always said
loves
this.
hearing your stories.
Yeah,
So
it's awesome.
be sure to write us some words in the comments on this video. But until next time, and there will be a next time, GI Joburg's weekly, baby. And I'm back, and it feels good. Thanks for
She's
joining
back.
us for episode 369. See you
I'm right.
in 7
That's
short
cool.
days.
Footloose.
Yo, Joe.
Don't drink all my juice. Oh, crap.